If you're wondering the best way to spend 3 days in Munich, Germany, this video is here to help. As a former local who pines over the city daily, I've already done all the legwork to create this action-packed 3-day itinerary that shows you the best of the city's sights and more. This labor of love is based on over 5 years living in Bavaria's gorgeous capital, and uses a flexible format with sites organized by neighborhood and multiple options for activities to ensure you have time to do what you actually like. But first, in case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com. And this channel is all about practical travel advice from someone who's been there, done that. So be sure to like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of thing. Now let's get started with day 1, which involves exploring Munich's Old Town and its surrounding sites. We'll begin with breakfast. And what better way to start than with a typical Bavarian breakfast? Known around here as a Weißwurst-Frühstück, a Bavarian breakfast consists of 3 truly excellent staples. Some white sausages with sweet mustard, a doughy pretzel, and naturally a cold glass of wheat beer to wash it all down. Always eaten before noon, there are tons of potential places to get a Bavarian breakfast near our morning activities. You can consult the written version of this guide for more recommendations, but if your goal is to get a nice view, Café Glockenspiel is right on Marienplatz and can't be beat, especially if you score a table by the window. Alternatively, if you don't feel like demolishing sausage, pretzels, and beer as a morning activity, another classic place for breakfast near Marienplatz is Café Frischhut, known for its Schmalzknödel, which is a Bavarian pastry that's essentially a slab of deep-fried dough. Alright, now let's move on to our morning activity, gawking around open-mouthed at the beauty of Munich's Altstadt, also known as its Old Town. This is by far the most scenic part of Munich, and where I'd recommend focusing your attention for your first day. Munich's Altstadt today is pretty much the area enclosed within the old city walls, marked by gates like the Karlstor at Karlsplatz, the Isar Tor, and Sendlinger Tor, as well as the non-gate Odeonsplatz. Wandering within this area for a few hours is a must, and while I'd love to provide a mega efficient route for seeing everything, the truth is some backtracking is bound to be involved. But hey, that's all part of the journey. Here are some ideas for places to see and morning activities in Munich's Altstadt, bearing in mind we'll be visiting the Viktualienmarkt, Odeonsplatz, and Max-Joseph-Platz a little later in the day. First off, you can DIY your own walking tour to cover some of the main squares in Altstadt, including Marienplatz, which has 2 great viewpoints to go up, the Alte Peter, which involves a ton of stairs, and the Neues Rathaus, which is much easier with an easy breezy elevator ride. There's also Platzl, which is home to the world-famous Hofbräuhaus, a nice optional stop if it's not too early for your first beer. You can also visit the Frauenkirche and its peculiar devil's footprint in the back of the church, or grab a ticket to the tower up top for some more epic views. Or you can do some shopping on the ultra-luxe Maximilianstrasse, or perhaps on the much more affordable Kaufingerstrasse. You can also step inside some beautiful churches like the Asamkirche and Theatinerkirche. Pay a visit to the epic Munich Residence, where for centuries Bavaria's most important rulers and decision makers lived in opulent splendor. Visit one of the Altstadt's many museums. For instance, I quite enjoyed the Münchner Stadtmuseum and the Museum of Urban and Contemporary Art. But there are quirkier picks too, like the Toy Museum or the Beer and Oktoberfest Museum. Or venture a little beyond Karlsplatz and you can go see the Justizpalast, one of the best free hidden gems in Munich. Now, after tiring yourself out with some relentless sightseeing, it's time for a tasty lunch stop. Steps away from Marienplatz, you'll find the Viktualienmarkt, Munich's vibrant food market featuring stalls crowned with colorful produce, fresh bites to go, a bustling beer garden, and plenty of wonderful local products to bring home. Be sure to keep an eye out for the market's large maypole, which is identifiable by its blue and white pattern and figures representing the different trades that can be found in and around the area. This is a great place to stop for lunch if you're hungry. I'm a big fan of the Münchner Suppenküche, which has a tasty assortment of soups, but there are so many food options here, you'll be able to find something for every craving. After lunch, it's time to walk off the food coma by meandering over to one of the largest city parks in the world, the English Garden. From Viktualienmarkt, I'd recommend walking through Altstadt via Max-Joseph-Platz, Odeonsplatz, through Hofgarten, past the surfers, then entering the park after you've had your fill of watching brave surfers wipe out. This in itself is probably one of the best things to do in Munich. Once you're in the English Garden, there are tons of different activities that you can enjoy. For instance, you can marvel at the Monopteros, which is a Greek-style temple on top of a hill that makes for great photos. You can stop by the Japanese garden, which has its own little tea house. Or do as the locals do and grab a treat at the Milchhäusl kiosk, which is open even in the wintertime, with really cute gondolas to sit in. Grab a beer at the Chinese Tower Beer Garden, which is one of the most famous beer gardens in Munich. Or my personal recommendation, wander further to the beautiful Lakeside Seehaus Beer Garden, which has a much more local crowd. If you prefer to do a bit more sightseeing, you can also plan your walk to exit via the western side of the park. This way, you can explore the beautiful neighborhood of Maxvorstadt, known for its dynamic energy thanks to a dense student population, as well as an abundance of cultural institutions and museums. What is there to do in Maxvorstadt? Well, here are some highlights. You can admire Siegestor, which is Munich's Victory Arch, a monument built to honor the glory of the Bavarian army. Take a moment at the Geschwister-Scholl-Platz, which is the Scholl Siblings Square, to see the memorial dedicated to the White Rose Resistance Group, which was an anti-Nazi resistance group run by students of the local university. In their memory, you will now see bronze replicas of their leaflets embedded in the square's cobblestones. Definitely worth seeing. And if you visit when the university is open, there's even a free exhibition on the inside that teaches you more about this history. You can also grab a unique ice cream at Der Verrückte Eismacher, which is known for its Alice in Wonderland aesthetic and inventive rotation of ice cream flavors, which includes Bavarian treats like Augustiner beer and sometimes even sauerkraut. You can also visit one of the many museums in Maxvorstadt's museum quarter, known as the Kunst Real, including the Pinakothek Modern, which is my personal pick. There's also the NS Documentation Center, ideal if you're interested in the Third Reich history of the city, as well as others like the Glyptothek, the Lenbach House, Museum Brandhorst, and more. And finally, you can admire the views at Königsplatz, where the stunning Propylaen Gate makes a lovely centerpiece. Now from Maxvorstadt or the English Garden, you're still close enough to the Altstadt to return for dinner, which is what I'd recommend you do to cap off your first day in Munich. For dinner, there are a few places in the city center that I recommend. You can also check out my full list of recommended Munich restaurants, which I'll link below. But my personal favorite place to bring guests and enjoy traditional Bavarian food is the Augustiner Klosterwirt, right by the Frauenkirche. Sure, it's a little touristy, but the food is consistently good and they're reasonably nice to tourists, which can't be said for all places. Now, after dinner, what I'd recommend is a nice evening wander around the Old Town. I know you've spent much of your day here, so you're probably sick of it already. But Munich's Old Town becomes all the more magical at night. So take the evening to have a little bumble around to admire how all those famous monuments look at night, especially with a fraction of their daytime crowds. You might also want to take this time to enjoy some Munich nightlife. Sadly, I am an 80-year-old grandma in disguise, so I'll defer you to my much cooler friend Suze, who has written an extensive Munich nightlife guide that I'll link in the description. Now let's move on to day 2, which is all about heading to the northern part of the city. First, we'll be covering a lot of ground on our second day, so fueling up quickly is a must. And since you've already had a taste of Bavaria's go-to morning fuel of sausage, pretzels, and beer, we'll opt for something a bit sweeter for day 2, a visit to a delicious German bakery. German bakeries are next-level havens of baked goodness, with tantalizing options for sweet and savory people alike. So to start your day off right, I'd suggest Googling your closest local bakery with good reviews, and popping in for a treat or two as well as a coffee. Do note that German bakeries often pride themselves on efficiency though, so don't take too long trying to decide what you want. If you're stuck on where to go, some popular and reliable chain bakeries in Munich include Richard, Zödel, and Dompierre, which is more of a French-style bakery, but it's really, really good. Now, after breakfast, we're going to continue our second day in Munich with a visit to a regal and quiet part of town that is, to me, one of the most beautiful spots that Munich has to offer: Nymphenburg Park and Palace. Once upon a time, Nymphenburg Palace was the go-to summer residence of the Bavarian royal family. Originally commissioned in the 17th century, incoming royals kept adding, building, and spending, turning the palace and park into the sprawling estate it is today. Besides marveling at the gorgeous palace, whose width exceeds even that of Versailles, visitors can buy a ticket to explore the gorgeous inner rooms of the palace, go for a walk on the extensive palace park grounds, visit the many on-site museums. You can also go on a pricey but romantic Venetian gondola ride, or visit the beautiful Munich Botanical Garden. Oh, and believe it or not, this palace is still home to Franz von Bayern, the Duke of Bavaria, whose great-grandfather was the kingdom's last ruling monarch. Now, after scouring the palace grounds in search of eligible dukes, for lunch we'll be enjoying a classic Bavarian experience, a beer garden. And where better to enjoy a beer garden experience than the largest one in all of Bavaria? With over 8,000 seats, Hirschgarten is the epic beer garden that lays claim to this accolade. Although I'd argue its more exciting feature is its actual deer. Yeah, just as its name, which translates to deer garden, implies, this beer garden is famous for its friendly set of deer, who graze and frolic just steps away from where you can enjoy a delicious lunch of classic Bavarian eats and drinks. Be careful though, it is very easy to lose an entire afternoon here. From Hirschgarten, you're not too far by public transport to our next stop, Olympiapark, one of the more unique parts of the city. While it may look futuristic, this impressive park was all built back in 1972 for the Summer Olympics, and even decades later, it continues to be a popular venue for sporting and cultural events. In fact, pretty much all the big concerts in town happen right here, in either the Olympiahalle or Olympiastadion. Upon arrival, take some time to explore the park at your own pace. There's loads to see. Here are some ideas. You can visit the free BMW world to see some cool cars and displays, or maybe visit the paid BMW museum for a more thorough walkthrough of BMW history through vintage cars. You can also photograph the unique clover-shaped BMW headquarters, modeled after the 4 cylinders of a car engine. Walk along Olympiasee and check out its own Walk of Fame, which has handprints and signatures embedded in the ground from famous celebrities, mostly musicians, who have visited the city. Or you can take a walk around Ollendorf to see the uniquely painted student bungalows that form one of the most unique student residences in the world. The students that live here have been given free rein to paint their bungalows as they wish, which has created a really cool open-air art gallery. Of course, I might be biased because this was my first ever home in Munich. Alright, if we've timed things right, you should still be lurking around Olympiapark around sunset, which is perfect. This park is by far one of my favorite places in Munich to catch sunset. You have 2 options here depending on your budget and desired romance level. For a free place to watch sunset, you can climb Olliberg, a big hill that overlooks the park. From here, you get a truly incredible vantage point over the city, and you can even see the Alps on a clear day. Or if you don't mind paying, the Olympic Tower is a truly incredible place to watch sunset as well. With the view being so much higher than Olliberg, you do see way more from here and it's breathtaking. But both are amazing in their own way. Now, if you followed this itinerary closely, then you'll have already enjoyed a taste of Munich's nightlife last night. Well, to cap off our second day, I'm going to give you a list of Munich's quirkier and more unique nightlife spots to choose from. Of course, if you just want to relax and continue conventional bar hopping, that's fine too. But picking something from this list will give you some insight into the theme of our final day, which is Munich's lesser visited gems. So here are some ideas for unique evening activities in Munich. First off, there's the Volksviertel Mitte, which is a cool area behind the Ostbahnhof train station with lots of cool murals and unique small businesses housed in shipping containers. There's also the Bahnwärter Thiel, which is a hip hangout spot that hosts various parties and events, with different bars scattered around a large venue decorated with repurposed shipping containers and structures. Or my personal favorite, the MS Uting, which is literally an old boat perched on a bridge that is now a fun hangout spot where you can get food and drinks, plus they host different events as well, like a Christmas market. All are good choices, so be sure to take advantage before getting a good night's rest, because you'll need it for our final day, which is all about tackling offbeat Munich. Alternatively, you could take this day to do one of Munich's many epic day trips. But for now, let's focus on staying in the city. Breakfast will be a quick on-the-go one today because first we're tackling a walk along the Isar River, the heart and soul of Munich. This majestic river winds for almost 300 kilometers through Austria and Germany, from the Alps to the Danube. The scenic section through Munich, though, is of course one of the most densely packed with sights. And a walk along here is a great way to appreciate the unique urban greenery of the city. Come summer, the banks of the Isar are packed with picnickers, swimmers, and sun revelers keen to make the most of the city's warm days. Year-round, you'll also spot fishermen and runners. Truly, there's no better place to appreciate the unique lifestyle of Munich. I would suggest walking from the Friedensengel to the Deutsches Museum, a walk that takes approximately 30 minutes, although it'll be much longer with photo and curiosity stops. I've intentionally left this morning fairly breezy so you can explore at your own pace. So feel free to take some detours if something catches your eye. As long as you end up near the Deutsches Museum by lunchtime, we'll be on track. Some sites to keep an eye out for during your Isar walk include the Friedensengel, which is this iconic angel of peace, as well as the view from its terrace, the colorful murals in the tunnel below the Friedensengel, which are well worth seeing, the Maximilianeum, a grand building that's home to the Bavarian State Parliament. And if you want a scenic detour, the entirety of Maximilianstrasse is gorgeous and lined with some of Munich's most luxurious shops. You can also go see the iconic St. Lucas Church, which is one of the most prominent parts of the Munich skyline. Or stop by the Müllisches Volksbad, a beautiful Art Nouveau public bathing pool. All that said, if you have the time or want to make it a priority, the Deutsches Museum is one of the largest science and technology museums in the world. Although, do be mindful that it takes some time to get through, so I wouldn't necessarily prioritize it unless you're super into science. Alright, now after that walk, you must be starving. Luckily, from the Deutsches Museum, you're in close proximity to one of the most vibrant districts in Munich, the Glockenbach-Viertel, known as the epicenter of Munich's LGBTQ+ scene, as well as the go-to spot for cool bars, cafes, and food spots. This is definitely an ideal place to grab lunch or a coffee. Of course, I would recommend going based on what you're craving because there are restaurants of all cuisines here. But if you're feeling for some more Bavarian food, the Paulaner Brauhaus am Kapuzinerplatz is great. I could also recommend Man vs. Machine for a post-meal caffeine boost, because their cold brew will truly change your life. Or lastly, if you want some absolutely life-threatening portions of schnitzel, venture a little farther to Andy's Krabblergarten, where schnitzel's the game and the prize is a certain food coma. Now, for our final afternoon, we're going to get a taste of Munich beyond the main sites. As for which neighborhoods to explore, I'd say the choice depends on what you're after. The Glockenbach-Viertel is very well connected to other parts of the city with easy access via tram, U-Bahn, or even on foot if you don't mind a bit of walking. So there are plenty of options close to your lunch spot to consider. Here are some potential options and what they have to offer. First, there's Heidhausen, a quaint and village-like part of town with highlights including an elegant square, a bustling beer garden, an epic parliament building, and plenty of delightful streets to wander down. You can also visit Bogenhausen, an elegant part of town with chic Art Nouveau villas and plenty of celebrity addresses. There's not a ton here by way of attractions, but it's a beautiful neighborhood to wander through, with a lovely art museum and a unique relic of history, Hitler's former apartment, if that interests you. Another option is Giesing. Long known as a working-class neighborhood, Giesing is one of my favorite neighborhoods to explore in Munich. Highlights include unique pieces of street art, a lovely rose garden, the idyllic neighborhood of Little Venice, the quirky fairy tale hangout spot known as Ganz Woanders, and the locals' cult favorite brewery Giesinger Bräu. Or finally, you can head to West Park. If you're after a calm, more nature-oriented escape, then West Park is a beautiful part of the city to explore. Year-round, there's plenty to enjoy here, from outdoor movies and a beautiful rose garden in the summer, to quirky Cafe Ganz am Wasser, which is especially festive in the wintertime. During fall and spring, beautiful blooms and foliage make the park and its hidden gardens a true delight. Make sure you don't miss the Thai temple, Japanese garden, and Chinese garden. They're truly some of the prettiest spots in the city. Alright, to cap off these beautiful 3 days in Munich, I'd suggest ending on a high note and partaking in a unique and memorable experience for your final evening. Some options, if money is no object, include a fine dining meal. After all, Munich has 20 Michelin-starred restaurants, including 1 3-star. A meal with a view, like at the restaurant on top of the Olympic Tower. Cocktails at a fancy rooftop bar, like the Mahjong Rooftop Garden at the Mandarin Oriental, which I consider to have the best view in the city. Or checking out a fun sports game, like a football game at the Allianz Arena. Some more cost-effective but still memorable options include a sunset picnic somewhere along the Isar, a quirky movie experience like at the Gloria Palast, which is gorgeous and super special, or at the Museum Lichtspiel, which is a small, unusual cinema known for showing the Rocky Horror Picture Show at least weekly for the past 40 years. There's also outdoor cinemas in the summer, like in West Park and Olympiapark. Or you can take a spin on the Umadom, a large Ferris wheel kind of like the London Eye, which you can find behind Munich Ostbahnhof. Now, if you're lucky enough to be spending more than 3 days in Munich, then don't fret. You can still use this itinerary for your first 3 days, then add on a day trip or further neighborhood explorations to round out your trip. There are tons of day trips that are easily doable with public transportation. Neuschwanstein or Salzburg would be my go-to picks. But if you want convenience and efficiency, there are many private tours departing from Munich that help you see more in a short amount of time. I'll leave links for those in the description. As you can see, there's loads to do in Munich to fill 3 days, so I hope this guide was helpful in organizing your time. Be sure to like and subscribe if it was, and thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!